I don't know what I'm doing. But anyways, hi, how are ya? My name is Beta, and today we'll be talking about the furry that lost their internship at NASA because of Twitter. I can't believe I'm talking about drama that happened half a decade ago. Then again, people on Twitter do seem to care even today about it, which that's half the reason why I'm talking about it, because I logged onto Twitter, you know, the wonderful platform that it is, and I saw people arguing about it and giving different reasonings as to why the individual lost their internship at NASA in 2018. You know, the one with the whole shut the fuck up everyone, I just got an internship at NASA, and then someone replied language, and then they subsequently replied suck my dick and balls, I work for NASA, and then they reply with, well, I'm on the Space Council that oversees NASA. I'm sure you've heard about it, or at least seen some of the meme formats that came out with it, which those are beautiful. I don't know why I did a weird kiss with that, but it's beautiful. I think my favorite meme from that whole Twitter thread that turned into a meme format was the one with Waluigi and Smash, where Waluigi tweets, everyone shut the fuck up, I just got into Smash Ultimate. And then fucking Masahiro Sakurai replies, language. Hands down, best meme ever. I don't care. But either way, you've probably seen the meme come up time and time again, or saw that it was trending like in 2018. I didn't really care back in 2018, that's why I care about it now, I guess. But the reason why I'm even doing a video on this is to sort of give a bit of truth as to what really happened and talk about the different rumors that came up about it. Like I even saw it on Twitter a few days ago that someone's argument on why the individual lost their internship at NASA wasn't because of the tweet initially. It was because they're trans, and 4chaners took that as an opportunity to ruin their life. I don't know how much truth there is to that. I'm just assuming that it's hearsay or rumors for now. Hopefully, the more we go into this, we'll learn about what really happened. Ultimately, that bit of it doesn't really matter. Actually, it shouldn't matter in general. This is like 4 years ago. I just ultimately hope that the OP in the tweet is doing better now. Like that they're okay, that they have a nice job in aerospace or aerodynamics or whatever they're doing in the STEM field. I just hope they're happy and well, ultimately. But I think the different rumors about what happened with it was what motivated me to do this video and give my interpretation on it, along with some of the actual factual evidence with how it happened. That's ultimately it. Also because I'm interested in engineering stuff somewhat. I got a degree in it. I never used it, but I still enjoy it. I still look into things about engineering. I can't stand aerospace for the life of me. I know nothing about fluid dynamics. I know I had to take classes on it, but I understood it at such a rudimentary level. Like most people in like aerodynamics have to calculate like a fluid moving like this. How? Why would you need to? Whatever. I'm not going to argue why. Let's just talk about what happened. But regardless, today we're going to be talking about that debacle with NASA in the intern and what ultimately is truth and what is hearsay or rumors. So this whole thing started back in the middle of August in 2018, where a Twitter user by the name of Naomi tweeted, everyone shut the fuck up. I got accepted for a NASA internship, which honestly, very good for them. I'd be as excited as they are. Just, I wouldn't personally tweet that, and I'll give my reasoning on why later, but regardless, very excited for them. About a day after that tweet, a user by the name of Homer replied, language. Just that's it. Language, period. You know, just to remind Naomi, hey, maybe don't use that language there. But it could be interpreted in several different ways. Most of the time when someone's tweeting at you or replying to you on Twitter, if you don't know them, they probably do not give a fuck about you. And that's how Naomi probably interpreted the situation. They saw a boomer on the internet just being like, why are you being like a Scrooge about this? Why are you being such a boomer? Later, Naomi replied, suck my dick and balls, I'm working at NASA. I will say, I respect the energy in this. It's not necessarily the wisest decision, again, with the tweet adding NASA in, with also those vulgar words. I wouldn't personally tweet anything like that, but regardless, I respect the energy and the dedication. As someone who might not know Homer Hickam, I might reply the same way. Maybe I'm just not a great person at all. Homer then replies, and I'm on the National Space Council that oversees NASA. Well, that took a bit of a turn, didn't it? And that whole Twitter thread became the best meme format on the internet ever, in my honest opinion. Second to the Drake and Josh doorframe memes. Those are pretty good. But either way, this is the Twitter thread that started the whole debacle. Before we move on, there are some things to note about it. The original tweet has a pretty good amount of interactions. Over 3,000 likes, a bunch of retweets, so on and so forth. And this is within less than a 24-hour period from when the tweet was made. And the last thing I want to highlight is the final reply in the thread from Homer, Homer saying that he's on the National Space Council that oversees NASA. That tweet has 28 replies, which leads me to believe that he's either being harassed or bullied or even ratioed, because I don't think quote retweets existed at the time. But either way, you have the Twitter thread that went viral and eventually led to NASA rejecting or declining Naomi's internship position. So that should be it. No other narratives or added things involved, right? Well, no, people are nosy on the internet and want to know what happened, why it happened. Was it the tweets? Was it something else? Did Homer go and report Naomi to NASA? Even though it doesn't matter, what happened? Now, to answer the question on why it happened, it all ultimately comes down to hearsay and whatever you mean. After NASA had rejected Naomi's internship, Homer actually took to his blog to post a little update about what was going on with social media and what he was doing currently to help Naomi, which is the bit of information that you might not know about because Homer deleted the blog post along with his Twitter for other reasons you also don't know, but we'll go over. But I do have a screenshot of the blog post I want to go over that'll give a bit of context as to what happened for those that are nosy or curious like I was. So let's go over the blog post to give a bit of context as to why Homer posted what he did and what he was doing after the whole NASA rejection, because this is where a lot of hearsay and rumors come into play as to why the rejection was made or how events transpired to get to the point where they were rejected. So on August 21st, 2018, Homer Hickam made a blog post titled Social Media. Recently, it was called to my attention on Twitter that someone was being hired by NASA and they were using the F word in a tweet about it. All right, nothing complicated so far, pretty easy, straightforward, nothing to dissect. Also, I love how he's separating these into paragraphs like an email, similar to like how you would sub-categorize or sub-topic each little statement you want to make, so it's easier to follow. I made that more complicated than it sounded, but I like it. It's a personal thing I like. Yeah, it's professional. And also, even before continuing, I can already see the reason for why he replied, being that NASA was being used in a tweet where the user was swearing or using unsavory language. I know I'm one to say, but it's just professionalism, especially when you're in a crucial period of being hired, but we'll get to that in a bit. So going on from there, I'm a Vietnam vet and not at all offended by the F word. However, when I saw NASA and the word used together, it occurred to me that this young person might get in trouble if NASA saw it. So I tweeted to her one word: language, and intended to leave it at that. Okay, so real quick, sort of hot take, you could have said anything else other than language. Like even just, not even DMing, just replying, hey, maybe don't use that language with regards to the word NASA so that they get the message of what you mean. Now, obviously, I can't really dictate that, and the intention is clear here, but on social media, you really can't read intentions in a one-word tweet like that, or really any tweet. You can't read intentions or tone based on words on a screen, which, you know, any argument could be made about like okay boomer sort of thing with regards to just saying language, but the intention was there and you kind of saw it. If you had no context to know who Homer was before that, you might not necessarily think the best about a reply saying language. But that first bit about associating NASA with the tweet and what was said in the tweet is something I wholeheartedly believe in being the reason why Naomi lost the internship. Because right after being hired for an internship or job or something, you're kind of in that crucial period where the company's keeping an eye on you, what you say on the internet, and so on and so forth. It's kind of like the same thing as like when they ask for a background check. And some companies might have a very simple background check to make sure that you're just not insane. And, you know, and hiring you won't be a detriment to the company's image because ultimately you want a good image with your company. But some businesses like NASA that are somewhat government oriented, that have a lot of classified information that you don't want people spreading around, might do a pretty heavy background check on you. And I'm not saying that NASA necessarily does this, but companies could ask for literally every piece of social media that you have. Your Twitter, your Fur Affinity, your Tumblr, literally anything that you use on social media, they want to see what you're posting to make sure that they know like, hey, you're good and you're not like associating the company in a bad name. But it might not even just be that. It could just be for security purposes, so you don't disclose any crucial or confidential information from the company or from the government or whatever. But with the NASA, I could kind of see it happening. I'm not sure if that's the case really, but as someone who has been in the STEM field, there is a lot of confidential stuff that companies don't want you sharing with other competitors. So that's why background checks and even heavy background checks or non-disclosure agreements are made about that sort of thing, especially when the government's involved directly. I don't know what that necessarily has to do with the tweet, but yeah, when you're tweeting that out and you're also arguing with someone who's on the board that is sort of above NASA that doesn't really bode too well with NASA itself. Even if they don't find out, like someone's got to have known about this. But it's just sort of the point that if someone from NASA, like the employer or the recruiter, saw that, they might not take too kindly to Naomi saying that and might see it as, oh, well, even though they're outside of the workplace, it's very unprofessional and it doesn't reflect who we are as a company. Now, I'm not arguing for censorship outside of the workplace, because I think that, you know, what you do outside of work should be separate from work itself. But at the same time, when you're in a very critical position of being hired like that, usually there's a close eye being kept on you. Usually. But I think Homer's worries are about the same as mine with regards to tweets like that. Even though you're not representing NASA on your own free time, you're kind of representing them in that tweet by bringing them in and mentioning the company. And so in turn, that reflects how NASA is as a company or business, whatever it is. Words are hard with me. I'm also trying to understand the business perspective from like social media standpoints. I'm probably very wrong with this, but let me know if I'm not. But regardless, Homer's worries are about the same with mine when I first look at a tweet like that. Like I think, oh, congratulations for getting the job. But also be careful about name dropping them in association with what you might be saying, whether it's vulgar wording or swearing or whatever you may have it, you know? Just gotta be a bit careful. But either way, that is why Homer tweeted language. He could have used any other phrasing there of like, hey, maybe it's not wise to say that with regards to NASA, with regards to the company that you're working for, even if you're not painting them in a bad light and you're excited for this. Maybe different wording would be better. That's all that was suggested, but again, can't really interpret that on Twitter, which that's the other thing. Homer, at that point, hadn't experienced the cesspool that is the internet and social media, Twitter specifically, which he is about to in the next few statements he makes. Soon, her friends took umbrage and said a lot of unkind things, but long after I was gone as I immediately deleted my comments and blocked all concern. So he was harassed for saying language. Don't you love how the internet works? It's a wonderful place, Twitter specifically. Only the best kinds of people are there. Also, another thing to note, we don't know what Homer means by Naomi's friends. If they're friends or if it's like a community or if it's other people. This is where the whole hearsay rumor thing comes into play. But we'll go over that in a bit. But either way, he was harassed for giving advice by whomever, and he blocked people and deleted the comments that he made. Pretty straightforward way to dealing with people on the internet, realistically. Later, I learned that she had lost her offer for an internship at NASA. This I had nothing to do with, nor could I, since I do not hire and fire at the agency or have any say on employment whatsoever. As it turned out, it was due to the NASA hashtag her friends used that called the agency's attention to it long after my comments were gone. Now, that last sentence he made could be interpreted so many different ways. So many different ways. And it's the reason why this drama has come up time and time again. I don't really like calling it drama because it's an internship that should be between two parties, not the internet. But the reason why this whole event comes up in the first place is because it's interpreted so many different ways as to what happened. Even the last thing he says could mean really anything in terms of who the friends are, or even NASA hashtag. In all of the articles that I read, or in all the sources or proof that I found, there was never any hashtag used. It's not to say that it couldn't happen, but it was very much the case of only the name NASA was used and not the hashtag to get the agency's attention. Also, why was I calling NASA a company or a business? It's a fucking agency. I still don't even know what it stands for. And I took a quiz on this. Goes to show how useless I am as an engineer. Now, do I think that NASA had found this tweet thread? Yes. Do I also think that those harassing Homer in the replies leading to him deleting the tweets also had to do with NASA dropping the internship? Yes. Because remember, we paid attention to it earlier. Homer had a handful of replies to his claim of being in the space agency that oversees NASA. Talking about space agency, like it's the galactic squad, like it's the galactic agency that oversees the universe. But still, if you saw in the last reply in the thread of tweets that there was a handful of replies, and I can guarantee that it had to do with those harassing Homer, and NASA in turn taking notice in the original tweet along with those replies. Now, whether or not they're friends of Naomi or the OP in the tweet is up to question. But the whole reason why this event keeps coming up in the first place is because we don't know why it happened. And the reason why it happened is all up for debate. It could be because of the original tweets. It could also be because of the community that was harassing Homer that NASA also took notice in. Like, we saw that original thread, and the last reply that Homer made, there were like 28 replies, and I can guarantee a lot of it was those trying to harass him and degrade him for trying to help. Now, surprisingly, I do have proof of some of the harassments being made towards Homer. Now, I'm not going to show them for the sake of that they're sensitive and they're very just heinous. They're just awful in general. Like, there's no reason for these individuals to be saying what they're saying ever. Like, that's just unacceptable all around, and just you're being an asshole and threatening someone because you want to. You can go and do research on that end yourself. However, at the very least, I want to see if their account is still active. One of the users attacking Homer goes by Kazwolf. I kind of want to see, like, what happened to them, if they're still going, if they've learned their lesson and decided to be a better person. Oh, their account was suspended. Okay, well, I mean, proof's in the pudding. I mean, here we are. So I guess, you know, just go and look it up. I'm not going to show the tweet that was made, but that's one example of many of the accounts that were replying to this whole event where there was really no need to. But yeah, if this doesn't paint a picture as to how much of a ray of sunshine the people replying to Homer were, then I don't know what is. Either way, you kind of have an idea of what was happening. Now, did those people harassing Homer go on to mention NASA or get NASA's attention in this whole situation? I don't know. I don't think anyone really knows. And that's how this whole rumor, hearsay thing happens to begin with. No one truly knows what happened. Do people want to know what happened? Yes. That's why different assumptions are being made, whether the individual was furry or because they were trans and 4chaners were trying to ruin their life. I don't fully know. I don't think anyone fully knows. But the last little argument about 4chan users discovering that Naomi is trans and wanting to ruin their life is one of the most recent ones, and why this whole event is being brought up 4 years later on Twitter. And that's why I want to go over it. I think people just like to be little shits on the internet just because. Like, those threats being thrown at Homer Hickam are absolutely unnecessary. This was Homer trying to help. God damn. Internet nowadays, Jesus. But genuinely though, some of those threats are just really not okay. And that's why I don't want to show them. You can go and look at them if you want. I don't encourage it because they are very sensitive threats. But we have one last paragraph to go over, which sort of concludes what happened. After the whole internship revoking and deleting of tweets, whatever you have it, this is what happened. She reached out to me with an unnecessary apology, which I heartily accepted and returned with my own. After talking to her, I am certain she deserves a position in the aerospace industry, and I'm doing all I can to secure her one that will be better than she lost. I've also talked to the folks that had to do with her internship and made absolutely certain that there will be no black mark on her record. Homer Hickam. Which the last bit, if you know, that's so Naomi isn't blacklisted from NASA in the future, from being hired or being an intern or whatever you may have. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I stan Homer. All my homies love Homer. He is being an absolute king in this situation when he doesn't need to be. He got shit from people on the internet and could have just been like, whatever, Twitter sucks, I'm gonna go and do my thing. Let's make it clear that he's got bigger fish to fry than Twitter people. But even after all that, he's going out of his own way to help Naomi get the internship back or get a better one. Even though I don't have an engineering job, if I ever decide to do that one day, I would kill for a connection like that. Are you kidding me? Even if it is an aerospace, I'm a mechanical engineer, just bachelor's of science, mechanical engineering degree. I would kill for a connection like that. That's not even the point of this, but still, Homer is just being such a nice dude regardless of all that had happened in like the span of a week. And it's crazy. He didn't have to, but he put his ass on the line for the rejected intern. And that, major respect to him for that. And that's pretty much what happened in the span of that week to 2 weeks or so. I don't know what happened with the internship, whether Naomi was rejected again or didn't get it back, or if Homer managed to get Naomi a better one. What I am hoping is that Naomi is well with whatever they choose to pursue as a career or whatever they went to school for a degree for. And I hope that Homer's still being a king. Jesus. That's the only thing I'm really curious about, is if both of them are doing fine and well today. Because it's 4 years later, you know, 4 years can change a person by a lot. I'm definitely an example of that. But I'm kind of curious, if anyone has any insight on that, please let me know. I guess the lesson that I want to highlight from this whole event is that I do agree that you should be allowed to do whatever you'd like outside of your work or whatever you do professionally on the internet. However, there are some, I guess, standards for that as well. And whatever the company, business, agency that you work for hears wind of. There were probably multiple reasons for why the rejection of the internship happened. I personally do not fully know, and realistically, I shouldn't care. But when it comes down to name dropping who you work for and sort of associating yourself by proxy, you should be a little bit careful. I don't really know what the right lesson is with regards to this. I'm not for censorship on the internet to keep your bosses happy sort of thing. You should be able to be who you are. You should be able to have an unprofessional sort of side of you, obviously within reason, but just be careful, that's all. Be careful about what you say on the internet. At least a bit of consolation for this whole thing is that nowadays, like 4 years later, things are becoming a bit more loose with what you can say online. Not in terms of heinous behavior or anything like that, but in terms of just having a life outside of work and doing what you do without worry of judgment from your peers or boss. For example, being a furry, because I know that was one of the bigger arguments for why Naomi didn't get the internship to begin with, was because they associated with the furry community, with the furry profile picture, whatever you may have it, and in turn the people replying to Homer and harassing him were furries themselves. So it's like, okay, you know, not a good light towards furries, whatever. But like, things have changed nowadays, and the opinion of furries is better. We've been over that, but that's not really an argument I want to go into today. The point is, just be a bit careful with what you say online. I'm not saying censor yourself for the sake of job sustainability, but just like, don't drag them in to that specifically. I don't know, maybe. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. And also keep an eye out for things that might be hearsay or rumor. This event is one of those situations where you can look at something and be like, is this what someone had told me? Or is this like factually like what had happened? Hearsay is hearing something from someone, or just rumor in this case, but most of what we went over today was like factual, like what actually happened. So keep an eye out for that and who might be trying to spread misinformation. It's like that whole meme that went around of like, when you purposely try to spread misinformation, it's just like someone giggling, like about to burst out laughing. God, the internet is such an interesting place. But either way, I wanted to go over that today to just give a bit of insight as to what actually happened and what you can view of how it happened or why it happened at your own cautiousness. Whatever you see on the internet, take it with a grain of salt. Do a bit of research. Why am I like doing hand movements like this? I've been doing it all day. Just do a bit of research and take what you see on the internet with a grain of salt, and maybe you'll find out what actually happened. Because I'm gonna be honest, all of what I said today took about like 5 minutes to look up on the internet and like maybe read a little bit of 2 articles. So yeah, take that as you will. But either way, I wish the best for Naomi and Homer in the future with what they hope to pursue, and that their lives are not affected by what happened 4 years ago. Also, I'd love to talk to Homer Hickam about like engineering stuff, even though like I know nothing about aerospace and liquids confuse me. Seems like a pretty cool guy, all things considered. He dealt with people on the internet. I don't know too many people that respond to that in a good manner, myself included. But either way, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you thought about this in the comments below, and if you want me to do more videos like this. I'm not too fond about doing drama videos necessarily, just because, I don't know, I don't really like covering the he said, she said sort of thing. Regardless, let me know what you want me to do in the future, because, I don't know. I'm just kind of winging it here. And if I got anything wrong in this video, please let me know in the comments. I'll be like putting together a little pinned tweet about like some things that were edited in the video or things that were changed, because I want this to be somewhat a source of like, hey, this is what actually happened with this whole event, because some articles can be useless and some videos can just be making videos for the sake of the clicks on it and that it's fresh drama. But if I was wrong about anything, please let me know so I can change it in the comments or make an edit in the description, or do a retake on this entire video if I'm so far from the truth. Because trust me, I have been completely wrong about multiple things, because I've had situations where I've guessed an entire thing and my Twitch chat has been like, you are a fucking idiot, Beta. You know what? Sometimes I deserve to hear that. But yeah, go follow me on Twitch, link in the description below. Besides that, I've got nothing else. Have a wonderful day, and as always, stay life jacket. Take care.